Okay, so yesterday we talked about naming segments, angles, and triangles. Today we're going to talk about congruent segments, angles, and triangles. So congruent is how you say two shapes or two figures are equal in geometry. And the symbol that we use to show congruency is like an equal sign with a little squiggle on top. So this means congruent. Let's go to it. Congruence in segments, okay? So in congruence in sides and segments, they must have the same tick mark to be considered congruent. That's how you show congruency without actually saying congruency. So for example, segment AD has one little tick mark that I have highlighted in orange. Segment BT also has that same single tick mark in between the lines. So we can say that segment AD is congruent to segment BT. And make sure you put those little segment lines on the top, okay? And this says, hey, these two things, they're equal to each other. And if you want to write it the other way, if you want to write it, say DA is congruent to TB, that's fine. It doesn't matter because you're still naming that segment. It's just a different way of naming that segment. So another segment that is congruent, so we have ZL has two tick marks. Another segment that has two tick marks is JP. So I can say ZL is congruent to JP. Okay. This part of geometry, notation is important. Putting the segment lines is important. Right? Congruency is important. Putting letters in order is gonna be important. And then lastly, we have this little arrow looking tick mark for NP. So that means that AR also has that same arrow looking tick mark. So that is going to be congruent. So we have PN is congruent to RA. Congruent angles is going to be a little bit more difficult and will need you to pay attention. Now remember, when you're writing out an angle, it must have three letters with the vertex in the middle. So wherever the point in an angle is, that's the vertex. That's what this is, okay? So that has to be in the middle of your three letters. So let's look at this. We have, I'll start with AWD. So AWD has this little curved tick mark for the angle. So the other angle that has the same curved tick mark is going to be BZT. So I can say angle AWD is congruent to angle BZT. Make sure you have the angle. Make sure you write congruent. Make sure that vertex, that middle letter, or where the corner is of your angle, is going to be in the middle, okay? Has to have it that way. And remember, you need three letters. It's not always going to be perfect like this. Sometimes it's going to be within shapes. All right, next up, let's look at angle XJQ. So XJQ, the congruent, same type of symbol happening on the angle is going to be RVM. So I can say angle XJQ is congruent to angle RVM. The last set of congruencies are where we have a curved tick mark with a line through it. So they are the same. Before, I don't know if I said this, but these have a double curved line, so they are the same. However, it's the same is your indication that it's going to be congruent, okay? So my last set of congruencies is angle EGU is congruent to angle YON. All right, next up is congruent triangles. So this is important. The order matters, okay? So we are saying right here that these two triangles are congruent. So I need you to notice R to P has one tick mark. T to N has one tick mark. P to S has a double tick mark. T to Q has the double tick mark. And then lastly, S to R has a triple check mark, and Q to N has a triple tick mark. So you need to make sure you write your congruent triangles in the correct order so that they are the same. So like I'm gonna go from P to R to S. So I have triangle P, R to S. And notice I go from 1 tick mark, 3 tick marks, 2 tick marks. So when I write the triangle for the other side, I need to do the same thing. I need to go 1 tick mark, 3 tick marks, 2 tick marks. So this is 1 tick mark, 3 tick marks, 2 tick marks. So I need to go T to N to Q, T to N to Q. That way they are the same because this represents PR is that single tick mark, TN is that single tick mark. Then the next two letters, RS represents the triple tick mark, and Q represents that triple tick mark, okay? Order matters when you write out congruent triangle statements. So the next one here, we are gonna look at this pair of triangles. And I'm gonna do the same thing with my colored pencils. I'm gonna mark off where we see the same kind of tick marks happening. Now, I used the sides the first time of the triangle. So this next time, I'm gonna use the angles of my triangle. The vertex for A, I have the single curved line. And at vertex V, on the other side, I have the single vertex line. R on the right side here has the double tick mark, and then W has the double tick mark. And then we have N vertex has a triple tick mark, and R on the left side here has the triple tick mark. So that's the order my triangle needs to go in. They need to match. So I'm gonna go green, blue, orange. So for my triangle congruency statement, I'm gonna say triangle AWR is congruent, and I need to make sure the other side matches up. VRN, VRN, okay? Order matters when you write triangle congruency statements. All right, this last one here, I'm gonna use this triangle congruency statement to mark up where things are congruent. So, in this triangle congruency statement, because order matters, I can say that HG and HL are congruent lines. So I'm gonna put a tick mark there. Then I can say that GF and LJ are also going to be congruent sides. So I'm gonna put a double tick mark there. And because I know that these are already congruent, I can say that third side in each of the triangles are congruent as well. Then I also have to say things about the angles. So I can say angle HGF, so HGF, this is congruent to angle HLJ, HLJ. And then I can say, so I can kind of write this in another way. So I can also say, so let's say we have angle GFH. So I'm rewriting these in the same order. So I'm starting GFH is also going to be congruent to LJH. So I'm going to find those points and make a tick mark. I kept the order. I just started with the G first, and that is okay. You can do that. That's the cool thing about these. And then lastly, but not leastly, these two angles are going to be congruent as well. Okay, that's the end of this video. You have more problems to do, but they are gonna get a little bit doozy. Good luck.